It was one of those summer afternoons where the sun was high, the birds chirped lazily, and everything felt just a little slower. Andre Walker, a 16-year-old boy, pedaled his bike down the familiar streets of Meadowbrook, a small suburban neighborhood where everybody knew everybody. Or at least they thought they did. Andre lived with his single mother, Sharon Walker, who worked long shifts as a nurse to keep food on the table and a roof over their heads. Sharon always reminded Andre of the unspoken rules he had to live by. Don't linger in stores. Always have your hands visible. If someone accuses you of anything, stay calm. It was exhausting, but it was the reality of being a young black boy in a predominantly white neighborhood. Today, Andre had only one thing on his mind: grabbing some snacks before meeting his friends at the park. He parked his bike outside Dixon's General Store, a small shop on the corner. It wasn't a big place, but it was the closest to his house, and he came here often. The door chimed as he entered, and a wave of cold air welcomed him inside. Andre gave a polite nod to Mr. Dixon, the store manager, who was sitting behind the counter reading a newspaper. But instead of the usual nod back, Dixon's gaze lingered. His pale blue eyes followed Andre's every step, narrowing slightly. Andre felt the familiar discomfort settle in his chest. He's watching me. Again. Andre made his way to the snack aisle and grabbed a bag of chips. He then went to the fridge at the back of the store, pulling out a Coke. As he turned to walk toward the counter, he noticed Dixon was still staring, now standing a little straighter behind the cash register. Andre sighed quietly to himself. Just stay cool, pay, and get out. He placed the items on the counter. Dixon's expression hardened. That all for you, kid? Andre gave a small nod. Yes, sir. Dixon leaned over slightly, scanning Andre from head to toe. You didn't pick up anything else, did you? Andre blinked, his heart skipping a beat. No, just these. Dixon's eyes flicked toward Andre's pockets. Why don't you go ahead and turn them out, just to be sure? Andre stared at him for a moment, disbelief washing over him like cold water. Is he really doing this? He knew arguing would only make things worse. Slowly, he pulled his pockets inside out. The right one held a folded dollar bill and his phone. The left one was empty. There, Andre said, keeping his voice even. Nothing. But Dixon wasn't satisfied. His lips curled in a thin, distrustful sneer. Kids like you are sneaky. You might have hidden something. Andre clenched his fist but forced himself to stay calm. I didn't take anything. Dixon leaned closer. I'll be the judge of that. Before Andre could respond, the door chimed again. Two older women stepped inside, pausing when they saw what was unfolding at the counter. Andre could feel their eyes on him, along with Dixon's suspicious gaze. The manager's voice grew louder. Don't move, boy. I'm calling the cops. I saw you sneaking something from the candy shelf. Andre's heart raced. I didn't steal anything. But Dixon had already reached under the counter and hit the silent alarm button. A heavy silence fell over the store as they waited. Andre felt trapped, his chest tightening with every passing second. The two women whispered to each other, glancing at him as if he were a caged animal. Andre's skin burned with humiliation. Minutes later, the sound of tires screeching outside made his stomach churn. The door flew open, and two police officers, Officer Marshall and Officer Adams, stepped in. There he is, Dixon pointed, his voice filled with self-righteousness. Caught him trying to steal. The officers moved toward Andre. Turn around, kid, Officer Marshall said, gripping Andre's arm. Andre's voice cracked. I didn't do anything. The officer yanked his hands behind his back. We'll sort it out. Just stay still. Tears stung Andre's eyes as the officers patted him down roughly in front of everyone. The two women at the door pulled out their phones, recording the scene. I didn't steal anything, Andre repeated desperately. His voice felt small, as if it was being swallowed by the walls around him. Where's the candy he supposedly took? Officer Adams asked Dixon, already looking annoyed. Dixon crossed his arms. He must have hidden it somewhere. Marshall shook his head. We found nothing on him. You sure you saw him steal something? Dixon stiffened. I know what I saw. Just as the officers were preparing to take Andre to the station, the door swung open, and Ms. Peterson, Andre's history teacher, rushed in. Wait, what's going on here? She demanded, her eyes flickering between the officers, Dixon and Andre. This kid tried to steal, Dixon said, but his voice now lacked the same confidence. Ms. Peterson glared at Dixon. Andre? Steal? That's ridiculous. Andre swallowed hard, his voice barely above a whisper. I didn't take anything, Ms. Peterson. The officers looked uncertain now. We haven't seen any evidence, ma'am, Officer Marshall admitted. The manager called us before checking the cameras. Ms. Peterson's face darkened. Then I suggest we do that now. Reluctantly, Dixon led them all to the back room, where the security footage played on an old monitor. They all stood in silence as Dixon rewound the tape. The footage showed Andre walking into the store, picking up the chips and soda, and heading straight to the counter. At no point did he touch anything from the candy shelf. Ms. Peterson folded her arms. Well, where's the theft? Dixon's face turned red. I must have made a mistake. Officer Marshall shot Dixon a hard look. A mistake? You called us in and humiliated this kid over nothing. Andre stared at the screen, his hands trembling with anger. Dixon tried to mumble an apology. I didn't mean... But Ms. Peterson cut him off. You knew exactly what you were doing. The officers released Andre immediately, and Ms. Peterson wrapped an arm around his shoulder, guiding him out of the store. Outside, Andre felt the weight of humiliation still clinging to him, but he also felt the warmth of her support. I'm so sorry, Andre, Ms. Peterson said softly. What Dixon did was wrong, and we're going to make sure he's held accountable. That evening, word spread across the community. Parents, teachers, and students came together, outraged by the injustice Andre had faced. They organized a peaceful protest outside Dixon's store, demanding that he be fired. Andre stood among them, his heart swelling with a strange mixture of anger and hope. The support from his community gave him strength. A week later, the store's owner, Mr. Harris, announced that Dixon had been terminated. This store is part of this community, Mr. Harris said during a public apology, and we will not tolerate racism. Andre attended the event with Miss Peterson and his mom. As Mr. Harris spoke, Andre felt a weight lift off his chest. For the first time in a long while, he felt seen, not as a suspect, but as a person who mattered. Miss Peterson smiled down at him. You did good, Andre. You handled it better than most adults would have. Andre nodded, his heart filled with quiet pride. He knew that life would throw more challenges his way, but now he also knew that he didn't have to face them alone. His voice mattered, and with his community by his side, he was ready to use it.